With no reference point, whether body or sense object or perception, there is infinite evenness within the undifferentiated, vast expanse of space. And so there is no inner agent that can be held to have identity. As you look outward at sense objects manifesting externally, everything is unobstructed, vivid yet ephemeral, random yet without any reference point. You perceive, hear, think, are aware, experience, and feel as never before. What is this? Are my perceptions by nature those of a lunatic? Am I in a dream? You burst out laughing at yourself. You are free of any notion of enemy or friend, attachment or aversion, near or far. Since there is a unique evenness in that everything is equal without any distinction between day and night, samsara, the reifying of characteristics and reference points, is cleared away. Since you have no concepts about the scope of naturally occurring timeless awareness, you have transcended the cage of acceptance and rejection, of what is an antidote and what is to be abandoned. With such realization, there is a non-dual, timeless awareness. You have arrived at enlightened intent, naturally occurring and wholly positive. You have arrived at the point of resolution, with no chance of falling back. Continuing to get down with Longchenpa from the precious treasury of the basic space of phenomena. This is Darren Littlejohn. Welcome to episode 105 of the 12-Step Buddhist Podcast, How to Be a Flimsy Reed. Well, in the AA Big Book, it talks a little bit about how to be a flimsy reed, but in a slightly different way, in that the AA program instructs us to grasp and develop. And my sponsor, John C., really made quite an issue of the ability to really understand the correct way of the nature of our situation and to work with our circumstances. That's what the first step is. We admitted we're powerless over the drug of choice, and that our lives are unmanageable. It's wrecked our lives. It's just wrecked our lives. But, flimsy reed in this context of the AA work is that, faith will develop with work. Faith will develop because faith without works is dead. Working with recovery from a Buddhist perspective, my teacher, Joko Back, the mistress or say madam of Zen in the world, said life as it is, the only teacher. Tulku Urgyen Rinpoche has a book called As It Is, in which he teaches the Nyingmapa, or one of the ancient branch of Tibetan Buddhism, teaches from, I believe, the Nyingmapa perception or framework of the Dzogchen teaching. As it is, I mentioned in the 12-Step Buddhist, as a form of surrender, as a form of the first three steps of AA. We admit and understand our situation. We are powerless. We cease fighting. We drop the rock and join the parade. We surrender to life as it is, and we allow it to be our teacher, which my teacher emphasized is really the only teacher. Life as it is. And we can go, when I heard that was in the 80s and onward. And now in the context of Dharma, many years later with a wider lens, tools and avenues of approach to this type of understanding, life as it is the last thing as addicts that we want to do. If we could do life as it is, then we wouldn't want life to be not as it is, i.e. something else, e.g. something else, i.e. e.g. Addicts do not want to experience life as it is, therefore we desperately seek and grasp alternate versions of our experience to create, modify, manufacture, but we realize we can't control it. And it's really a metaphor for Dharma, isn't it? Because we really can't control life as it is. We really can't control life because it is as it is, regardless of whether or not we're an addict. But I've always said, if we do find ourselves in the state of addiction or addiction recovery and having that knowledge about ourselves, as we said in the Satangata Sutra, or the Sutra of Golden Light, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, the brandishing of the sword of knowledge. So we brandish the sword of knowledge. I'm an alcoholic. I'm powerless over alcohol. That's accepting life as it is. And we let it teach us further into the steps of recovery and into the program, and we can let it be a vehicle of ease for us as addicts to understand, hey, yes, definitely always fighting reality. And, we say in recovery, that's God's will, God's will, God's will, God's will, God's will. Well, I don't know about from God's will, okay? But I do know that life is as it is, regardless of how I color it, fight it, hate it, love it, go for it, try to run from it, package it, explain it, analyze it. Anything I try to do to apprehend is a fail. And yes, we can repurpose our seeking nature, part of our anatomy, part of our brain anatomy, our seeking for survival. We can, they call me the seeker, I've been seeking low and high. Pardon my gross singing, but Roger Daltrey, they call me the seeker. I really identified with that. So did so many LSD-induced people of the era of the early 70s. They call me the seeker. Yeah, I identify with that, but guess what? Well, the seeker might get you to the pathway, and you might find a Sherpa, somebody somewhere, to get us to the path. And then if we can find a master, we might be able to ascend, as I said in a couple of episodes ago, ascend to the secret place of the Most High, which is the ultimate utmost in our, understanding our own Buddha nature, again, borrowing from Zen. So when we get into this not pushing it away and not trying to grab at stuff, acceptance and rejection, attachment and aversion, or that sort of neutral, apathetic, dull, in the zone, stoner outlook, I don't know, what's on TV, where's my video game, or whatever. We're really just understanding the whole package of attachment and aversion and the neutrality space as well. In other words, who is it that sees this whole picture? Have a nice deep inhale, fill it up a lot from the bottom to the top, breathe in more, open the throat and release everything without effort. Linger in the fresh, open, empty awareness before breathing in. We'll do it 2 more times. Notice life as it is, whether you like it or not. Inhale. Open it up. Exhale, let go. No effort, be empty. Linger. Notice. Don't tamper, don't meddle, don't try to fix it. Again, inhale, expand, release, hover. So there's a way to practice that. I won't go all into it right now, but just write this down. If we inhale for 4, hold slightly with our throat slightly open for 4. We're not holding in a grunting way. We're going to exhale slowly for 4, same count. And then we're going to let it linger there, thinking of the deceased, I think Dolores O'Riordan of the Cranberries. Let it linger. An alcoholic, the young lady. For her, we can do this practice, and for ourselves, we can do this practice, and we can be bodhisattvas on the path, and we can operate from compassion and the understanding that there is nothing, everything's just pure, open, empty space. Inhale, let it go as it is, exhale, and then jump back. Look back. Who is it? Who's looking? Who's meditating? Who's having this experience? Then relax. Give up. Give up the need. And say the disease of understanding, the disease of the attempt to understand. When we really let go and let God, and God, meaning in God in the context, as I wrote in the 12-Step Buddhist, available in bookstores, Barnes & Noble, Powell's, Walmart. Get a copy for yourself and your therapist and a couple of friends today. I promise I get lots of emails. It's a good book since 2009. Got the updated version, 2018. We talk about these topics and how to relate them to our recovery in them in that space today, working with the situation. I was left with a situation. I was left with it because of things outside of my control, apparently. I was promised a long-term place to stay in a very expensive area that otherwise is 2 or 3 times what I could afford. And, I was, probably used for some purposes. So the person wanted me to take care of stuff, and I did. And it just came out of a situation like that. And really was trying to relax and settle into a retreat space. Then the person just shunned me, got negative, really negative vibes, negative looks, negative energy, and said, you got to go. That was really, really tough to take on so many levels, since I just spent all the money I could possibly have, making the transition, doing the travel, toting the animals and the RV and all my stuff that I keep expanding, and including my whole grow operation. And it just, all my whole grow was killed basically. And that's okay. But, I had no choice. So I really do feel I was forced, even though I understand karmically it's all manufactured of my own delusion, understood in the situation and the relative reality. I got to eat and got to have a roof over my head. So, I'm way, way out in a very barren, well, it's not barren, but it's very vast. And after being in the camper for 3 years, I stayed an extra year longer than you did, probably, after COVID, out of lack of choice, really. And, made, things happened and moves were made and transition occurred. And it was, I guess it was a little bit of a harder landing. But then it became a boat, and boy, that landing has been rough. I mean, I'm off grid. I've never been off grid in my life. No running water, no septic. We're doing human composting, hauling the water. And the funny thing about it is, a friend of mine who I've known for 30 years, he says, really giving me a lot of grief, really yelling and screaming at me about, tote the wood, carry the water, be a Buddhist. If you're a Buddhist, you wouldn't be afraid of suffering in the winter in the camper. And I'm like, yeah, bro, well, last year there was like ice picks in my back for days and weeks at a time. Yeah, there was a hole in the insulation, but it's not going to make it 30 degrees warmer by adding that piece. But the person telling me you're not a Buddhist, what kind of a Buddhist were you? If you were a Buddhist, Buddhism. And finally I said, just shut the fuck up. I said, you don't know shit about Buddhism. You don't know jack shit, so shut your fucking mouth. Just shut your fucking mouth right now. Okay? If I want to lecture on Dharma, I have masters. You're a fucking knucklehead. You read some books. Oh, I just spent all morning reading. Okay, well, spend the rest of the day reading. It's not going to get you to the understanding of compassion. And right now you're not being compassionate to me. I'm really suffering. I'm in a severe complex PTSD, housing insecurity crisis, which my body, speech, and mind just like automatically just stutter to a halt, And the person was being abusive. And I'm like, they called back and apologized. And I just, look, it's not my place to tell you, you don't know shit. But here's the thing, man. I got out here, and I'm toting the wood and carrying the water in a way that would have been much, much less work were I to have been able to afford the exorbitant cost of living into a more populated area with accessibility to things like stores and such. So, like, what a hypocrite, my buddy telling me to tote the wood and carry the water, and I wound up doing it in a way that apparently I'm seen as some kind of reject or loser now, because this isn't what the affluent white people do. This is what the rejects do. And in a sense, don't judge me by my history and the way I might look, but, accept the gift that's in my hand. I have Dharma. I live Dharma. I'm a yogi. It's hard anyways, but it's even harder when you have complex PTSD, high ACEs, and, long-term recovery, but still mental health struggles from all of the experiences of, a child with adverse childhood experiences. Read all about it in Compassionate Recovery, my most recent book. It's about a year and a half old. Grab it on Amazon or wherever. You can ask for it in bookstores and read it and get back to me. Use it in groups. If you have a group, if you have a therapist, you want some copies sent over, I have a small budget for that. I can send them out. Hit me up, info@compassionaterecovery.us. And, the podcast, always all the show notes and links to the things we discussed and various teachings and various teachers is at podcast.compassionaterecovery.us, because it's not about me, it's about us. So if it's me against the universe, I'm outnumbered, as Bob Thurman has said. And really, the togetherness, we're not all one, we're all different, but we're all got a basic Buddha nature. We all got a basic divinity, a compassionality. No matter what it looks like, our situation, if we just approach it like step one, I'm powerless, and just practice life as it is and don't resist, because resistance will inversely, proportionate to the pressure applied, it will give you the chain reaction. The door opens from the inside. If you're in a movie theater and there's a fire, the door better push out, because if it doesn't, we're going to be jamming our thoughts and feelings and panic against that door, which we got to back up, relax, inhale, let it all go, exhale, hover like a balloon in space, effortless, weightless. Well, this has been fun. I really had suffered, and somehow I landed, and I'm going solar, and I'm, I'm showering out of a bucket with a handheld Ivation deal. And it's not, it's primitive, but, I've gone on a retreat, down in Baja California, San Jose del Cabo, at one of our community retreat centers down there, to do some intense raw practice in the elements. And let me tell you where I'm at right now. Strips you raw. You don't bring your ego bullshit to this land. You better give, and you better learn to collaborate, or you will be collaborated with. Similar to how they said in the AA program, work the steps, or the steps will work you. So my admonition to you, or my request or blessing that I can pass along, is let it all go, resist nothing, practice this, and work with the situation at hand. I had to say, okay, I'm going to be forced to go back into the camper. And I reserved a spot to go back into the camper. And I said, okay, now I have an opportunity to look around. Okay, I looked around. And then I found an opportunity to be, yes, in a much more difficult camper lifestyle. However, in an area, in a community where a lot of people are in the same situation, see things the same way, there's a lot of meditation, there's a lot of integration, and there's a lot of things going on. So in a way, I may have been delivered to the promised land, although it's really fucking hard. And you gotta really approach it in an empty way, not in a stiff and rigid way, hence the topic today, to be as a flimsy reed and move with the wind, not to be a doormat, but to work with our condition and do the next right thing. One more time, inhale. Meditation's always the next right thing. Exhale. And whatever kind of yoga we can do. Alrighty, everybody. I'm going to hit you later. Sorry, I took 2 weeks off. It was really stressful. Had several breaks. A lot of love and support from the international community. Thank you so much. Peace and love. Peace and love. Peace out and namaste.